from an undisclosed location in the Great Western Desert in the land of the free and autonomous Native American people. The 2024 presidential campaign in its time to return all US land back to their rightful owners. This is the BenZion podcast. Techno-communism.
To the BenZion program. I am your host, BenZion. I'm running for president to dismantle the United States federal government. You should write me in and vote for me. We're going to get some ballot access, but you can make a bold statement about the capitalists that are killing your planet. The United States is killing the planet, and it will never stop. We have to stop it. And I don't see too many people really trying to do that. I see people talking about the problems, chewing around the edges of it, but not talking about solutions. And I'm here today to talk to you, as you might have surmised from the headline for this episode. This is going to be a spooky one. Some serious stuff's about to happen when BenZion puts on the Star Trek Mirror Mirror T-shirt with two Spocks on it. I am going to start this conversation by saying I'm giving you a homework assignment. And I know that's probably like a trigger word to make you turn off a podcast, but I want you to listen to your assignment nevertheless. I would like you to do as I have done. And I would like you to go to chat.openai.com, the ChatGPT test site, where you can beta test a very smart chatbot that's capable of generating a lot of work product for you. This could be useful in other arenas for yourself. If you haven't already played with this, I just read a headline today. It's a couple of different high-profile personalities saying they're addicted. People who are considered to be in high-powered, important jobs, like CEO of a tech company, addicted to using ChatGPT to create prompts and conversations of this kind. As I mentioned in the last episode, I know someone who wrote an entire book of a corporate product in a course of an hour, wrote and essentially edited the whole thing using targeted prompts with this very website. So if you're interested in writing a book in a particular hour, in one hour, and you don't have a particular topic in mind yet, let me remind you of the homework assignment that I've given you. I started working on quite a few ChatGPT prompts using this site. I set it aside for a few weeks. I was working on some other things, but I looked at it again since I started doing this podcast again, and I said, you know what, we have to talk about one of these. So I started to talk to ChatGPT about the subject of using advanced algorithms and artificial intelligence like ChatGPT to put together a strategy for building a advanced algorithm-run government and implementing a communist revolution in one country and then in all countries on those bases, using advanced technology in this way to save the planet. As I mentioned, this planet is dying. And BenZion, he's not probably the best guy to write this book. There's a lot of you out there that are a lot smarter than BenZion. Who the hell is BenZion? He's just a guy, kind of a bonehead, who doesn't want his species to go extinct and kind of doesn't really like people lying to him. That's something that maybe I have a minor competitive edge over other people, as I really don't like to be lied to or deceived. um, but definitely not a person absolutely to write this book, but perhaps you are. And I'll tell you another thing. I don't know much, but I do know that all of us can write this book. In fact, I think that might be the way to go. ChatGPT ChatGPT likes to preface a lot of questions of this kind with a pretty standard response, a little bit like saying, consider the moral implications. they like to put that boilerplate on the end of almost everything, especially when they're talking to me. So ChatGPT says this is an interesting topic, and we do have to think about the future impact of artificial intelligence. It's important to approach this with caution. It raises complex and controversial issues that could have a significant impact for society. One potential scenario in which AI could be used to establish a one world government is through the creation of an advanced AI system that is capable of managing and governing all aspects of society, including decision making, resource allocation, and policy implementation. This could potentially lead to a more efficient and fair system of governance. Don't let your drunken uncle tell you otherwise. A one world government with algorithms of this sophistication would probably be more efficient and equitable. As the AI would be able to analyze and process large amounts of data and make unbiased decisions based on objective criteria. On the other hand, there are potential risks and downsides to this scenario. And then they just talk about how conservatives are going to try to kill you. For example, there may be concerns about the lack of accountability and transparency in the system governed by AI, as well as a possibility of AI making decisions that are not in the best interests of humanity. To me, that's more like the show we just did about Megan. I've said this, I think, a few times. The problem of emerging technology is not that it's powerful. The problem is that it's falling into the hands of imperialist madmen and other kinds of fascists, and those people aren't responsible enough to feed themselves practically. So they shouldn't be having this sort of thing. We, the people of Earth, need to approach these problems together with a sense of the urgency, but also a sense of the danger and great responsibility and all of the ethical considerations that should go in to concerns about humane treatment and the building of new institutions. That has not been the case, the building of institutions thus far in the West. They've been put together haphazardly, and they've been run by outright lunatics. People who in a slightly better world would either have been, hopefully, raised a little bit better and educated in such a way that they wouldn't be fascists. But if they were, in that slightly better world, they would spend all of their lives in a rubber room drinking pudding through a straw. All of the people of the capitalist class, who are unrepentantly so, they would be lucky if that were the kind of treatment they were to receive. And doubly so of the American fascists in control of this continent and the Western world today. Additionally, the creation of a one-world government governed by AI could lead to the loss of national sovereignty, that's the idea, and the erosion of cultural and individual freedoms. Okay, I don't see a lot of people really having great freedoms to begin with, and I can't imagine that the specific mandate of building an economic system that is equitable is going to erode those. They're just saying what 99 out of 100 people would say in a given situation. A lot of times, ChatGPT, freedom, and culture. What's culture? That's not a thing. it's a thing because everybody says it's a thing. It's not half so important as people want to tell you. It's important to carefully consider the potential consequences and ethical implications of using AI to establish a one world government, and to have open and honest discussions about the potential risks and benefits of such a scenario. So that was a prompt, the preface, perhaps, to this few chapters of a book about using getting AI to help me use AI to take over the world for the benefit of humankind. Because right now, what's happening? Humankind is going extinct. That's not great. There's no adults in the room. You have to be the adult. So get on the website now. Go to openai.com, chat.openai.com, and start writing a book. Start writing this book, and put together a work group with me, and we'll all start writing it together. In what ways could AI begin to be used to build a Marxist one world government? So I use this word one world government in the prompt, not because I'm particularly enamored of it, but because it's a little more succinct than saying socialism in one country spreading into a world revolution. It's not a trigger word for an AI necessarily, although clearly it kind of is, in the way that it would be for your Uncle Joe or just every third schmuck that you meet. The important thing is planned economy and transitioning to a fully realized communist state centered on advanced technology of a kind that exists today and is either being kept under glass or is being used for absurd things. You know, the absurdity of the way that these things are being used just for various corporate and nationalist intrigues, and just kind of brainwashing people into buying crap that's helping to kill the planet. That's all garbage. Most of the economy is garbage, right? So Marxism is a political. This is what ChatGPT is going to tell us about Marxism now. Marxism is a political and economic ideology that advocates for the creation of a socialist state in which the means of production are owned and controlled by the community as a whole, rather than private individuals or corporations. Yes, please do remember a few things, popular misconceptions about socialism. Socialism is not an authoritarian state run by a few people for the benefit of those few in the immiseration of all others. That's capitalism. That's fascism. Socialism is the opposite of that, for the people. The other I think more damaging misconception about socialism is pretty particular to the liberal class, and that is the idea that socialism is not ownership or control by the community of the means of production and the abolition of private wealth, but rather a few limited social programs coexisting with that capitalist economic system. No, that is not socialism. If your end game is to be a democratic socialist, fuck you every day and twice on Sunday. That's not the end game. The end game of socialism is to build a planned economy and to end the exploitation of the capitalist class and to end private wealth. If you're not trying to end private wealth, you are not a socialist. And unfortunately, an awful lot of people in the West, and particularly in the United States, and particularly of the professional political class, are very invested in blurring that distinction. In the context, just so they gave us a definition of in this and the question, remember, was using Marxism to build a global planned economy, a Marxist global planned economy using advanced algorithms and superintelligence. And they gave us a definition of what Marxism is, in case we don't know. And in this case, it is possible to imagine a scenario in which AI could be used to facilitate the establishment of a Marxist world government. Although it is important to note that there is no specific way in which, there is no one specific way in which this could occur. I wanted you to give me one specific list of one specific ways, ChatGPT, but you didn't do that. One potential scenario in which AI could be used to support a Marxist one world government is through the use of advanced machine learning algorithms to analyze and optimize the distribution of resources and wealth within a society. A little similar to their first suggestion. For example, an AI system could be used to analyze data on economic production and consumption patterns and make recommendations on how to redistribute resources in a more equitable way. Another way in which AI could potentially support a Marxist one world government is through the use of autonomous systems to perform tasks that are currently carried out by human workers. Yes. One thing that started to make me revisit my more youthful Marxist sympathies was starting to read articles written by capitalists. Well, not all. Okay, scratch that. Starting to read articles describing how supply chain management systems of an operation like Amazon, this automation system, if it had been in possession of the USSR during its existence, would have solved certain problems in that country, although those problems are overstated by today's historians, who have a more or less almost intense preoccupation with discrediting the achievements of socialist states of the 20th century, which were incredible. The Russian, 100 million people in Russia were lifted out of literal bondage and serfdom, lifted out of extreme poverty. And you can see with every passing year, people living longer and longer and longer. Lifespan doubled over the course of a few short decades. Things of this kind. This is universally the case. And you know, as I've said on 2 or 3 other shows, that when the capitalists defeated the socialists at the end of the 20th century, what then happened? The lifespans came down, have come down precipitously in the last few years. So we need to reverse that trend by becoming revolutionary communists. And one way that we can do this is by working together on a group project for figuring out how AI can build a planned economy that is run by all of us. And that's not an easy project. That's why I said BenZion is nowhere near intelligent enough, perhaps, to spearhead this project. But I hope that maybe I can inspire some of you to maybe put a bug in a few others' ears, and maybe this thing can start to take on a life of its own. That would be nice. These autonomous systems that are described, these would potentially free up people to engage in other activities, such as participating in the political processes and contributing to the development of the community, which also reduce the need for labor and and much increasing in efficiency. It's important to keep in mind that these are just a few examples of how AI could potentially be used to support a Marxist one-world government, and that the actual implementation of such a system would likely depend on a variety of factors and be shaped by the specific goals and values of those who are seeking to establish it. And that should be all of us. All of us, if we want this planet to survive, if we want this species to survive, we should be working on projects precisely like this. We should not be having this false empathy for the ruling elites. You all, in my observation, are more concerned with the feelings and interests of the people who are killing the planet than your own stinking life. You'll talk about Elon Musk. What is Elon Musk thinking? What is Elon Musk doing today? Elon Musk is a CIA mega asset. The only thing he's ever done is greenwash horrible segments of the economy, sectors that are destructive in every way. The automotive sector is destructive in every way. The petroleum sectors are highly destructive in every way. And all he's ever done is greenwash those sectors so that people say, oh, we don't have to get rid of these things because, look, there's an alternative. This other car that's actually green, but it's not green because it generates, in its production, generates just as much waste as any other vehicle. And so you're making, everybody is just creating a framework for rationalizing continued bad behavior. We don't have to do that. The Greens are doing what they need to do. That's their choice. Everyone has a choice. Everyone has a choice to be a destructive idiot that's contributing to the death of the planet. These are lies. And you have to be better. And the first thing that you really have to do is reject that liberal class lie that says that socialism can just be what Bernie Sanders says. Well, if we have at least a public health service, then that's socialism. Socialism achieved. No. Bernie Sanders has never met a military budget that he didn't like. So how is that different from any other person of the capitalist class? Because he doesn't want his uncle and his cousin to die without health care. Yeah, like, okay, that's not enough. That's not enough to save this planet. That's not enough to do what needs to be done. It's not enough to even achieve the things that he wants. That's the tricky thing, right? If you come into this conversation with the capitalists and say, I'm not willing to take revolutionary action, I'm not really willing to really encroach in your territory in any way, and I only want 2 or 3 things that other liberals kind of want but don't know how to get. I don't really know how to get it either. That's Bernie Sanders. He's a jackass. He's not going to help you. We have to demand these things. The fact that millions of people have died during a plague because there is not a public health service. How are you not in the streets with pitchforks every day? Millions. If in another country millions of people were being killed, the United States would be talking about how there needs to be humanitarian aid there. But because it's in the West, it's just an act of God that we can't really understand. It's not hard to understand. We just don't want to fix it. We are not willing to stand up to the ruling elites, and we are not willing to say private wealth is at the heart of all of these problems and must be done away with. And that's what we have to do. So if you're coming into this conversation saying, whoa, who is this guy talking about a one world government, talking about planned economies, the abolition of private wealth? That is because you have been deceived, my friend. You have not been allowed to think about the very things that would save your life. You've instead been tricked into watching Marvel movies and NFL football. Super Bowl is going to be in the city close to where I live. You're not going to. You're just being tricked, and you're not thinking. You're thinking about what Elon Musk wants. You're thinking about just some people worse than Elon Musk. This is literally people like Jeffrey Epstein are describing, get to write everybody's agenda. The worst people on earth control every part of the narrative that defines your life. And so, it's no wonder that that when, a sex trafficker runs off to Romania so he can keep sex trafficking, and then he gets caught by the Romanian authorities, so many men in the U.S. and in the West are just bending over backwards to defend this horrible, horrible human being. You've been conditioned your whole life not to think about your own interests, instead to think about the interests of the ruling class. And that's all you're capable of doing. And that is why words like planned economy are so shocking to you. That is why the simple idea of human beings working together, simple ideas, collectivism, egalitarianism, the very, very simple notions, it's a near human universal. It is almost in every sense a real human universal, this idea of do unto others and working together. And that's all that socialism is. And all that communism is a willingness to stand up to the ruling elites and say, we need to fight. And you don't have any choice. The choice is extinction. That's the other alternative. We have to do this. You have to do your homework. Chat.openai.com. Start writing about, with your new co-author, ChatGPT, about revolutionary communist projects, and tell me what you want to do. I'll be glad to be a part of it, particularly if it has to do with technology. Well, I'm gonna wrap this up. There's a couple of other chapters of this story that I think will continue another day. There's I have to wash the spot. This is one of my favorite shirts. I couldn't find it for a while, and I found it at the bottom of my closet. Thank you for joining me in the BenZion podcast, and we'll talk again soon.